Hi, everyone. Welcome to Lakshmi's Leadership Lounge. This is all about the future of work because the future of work is changing, and now more than ever is the time that we evaluate the way we let to prepare ourselves for it. This is why we bring you a series that showcases a plethora of leaders who have inspired us by redefining the way they lead. Join me, Lakshmi Pratury, on this journey as I take a deep dive into the lives of these trailblazers and their unique take on leadership. And today, we have with us Vasudev Bhandarkar. He's the founder and CEO of ScoreData Corporation. As a co-founder and executive, Vas has successfully co-founded and helped build several highly valued companies in the past as well, Selectica, Remedy, and they both IPOed on Nasdaq. And he has also led an outsourced product engineering company, Globallogic. It was recently acquired by Hitachi for $9.6 billion. Vas has also been an active angel investor in leading edge technology companies for over a decade, especially in the areas of Bitcoin, blockchain, etc. You'll hear a lot more about it as we talk. Vas had leading positions at AT&T, Bell Labs, Apple Computers, Hewlett-Packard before he turned an entrepreneur. And he holds a master's degree in computer science from Colorado State University. He's a distinguished alumni there, and physics from IIT Mumbai, where we both share our alma mater. And he pursued graduate studies in executive education in business, corporate governance, and finance. He's been to Santa Clara University and Stanford Graduate Business School. This is just a very, very quick introduction, and you'll hear a lot more about Vas as we have a conversation. Vas, can you please join us?
Hi, Lakshmi. How are you?
Hi, Vas. So
Thank you for having me.
I gave only like half the introduction of all the stuff you have done, hoping that the rest will come as we chat. So I just wanted to quickly go through, you've, after your IIT, you started a consulting company in India in statistics and data modeling. And then you taught physics at Ruparel College. You've done a startup and then joined Patni Computers. First of all, what was your experience being an entrepreneur at that time in India? And what triggered your decision to move to the US?
Well, I don't know why I thought of it. I guess it's part of our blood and part of our genes. My dad was an entrepreneur himself. He started a publishing company before that, so he was a good role model for me. He was also a professor at the Marine Engineering College in Sewri in Mumbai. And so that kind of ran into through our bloodstream. And so when I graduated from IIT, I thought I'll try out all my programming lessons that I learned at IIT, the two classes that I took in Fortran from Professor Pathak.
I remember Professor Pathak is still going strong at IIT Mumbai.
Yes, yeah. And there was a whole bunch of others like SSSP Rao and Dhamdere and all, Dhamdere had not even gotten his PhD at the time. But we programmed on the EC 1030 and
remember those punch cards and staying up all night, waiting your turn.
And dropping the deck of programs.
Deck of cards, yes.
Right. But fortunately, then I got an opportunity to program on the Deck 10 at TIFR. And that's what kind of changed my life. But I did work for the Industrial Development Bank of India. They were doing some data modeling around housing. And the first project that I got was to predict which buildings in Girgaon were going to collapse next. And that was a predictive modeling project that I took on. And then after that, I took on a project for arrival times of ships in Mumbai port. And that was an interesting journey. But I realized that I needed to, learn my ropes in industry, and so that's when I joined Patni Computers, And my
Yeah.
first manager, the guy who hired me was Narayan Murthy. He was employee number 2 at Patni Computers. The first one was Ganjam Gupta. So I think I was employee number 4 or 5 at Patni. So yeah, it was an interesting journey. And then, a couple employees later, we hired Nandan. So, but yeah, it was a great journey. And then after I worked at Patni for a couple of years, for a year or so, I realized that I needed to get a formal education in computer science, and that's when I applied to the U.S. and got into Colorado State University.
Yeah.
So that was my initial journey.
Yeah. So, you've been in a large company, and then you've been an entrepreneur. You've been a veteran of the enterprise software industry. You have successfully co-founded and helped build several highly valued companies, as I said in your introduction, like Selectica, Remedy, etc. What are some of the lessons you learned from the working at a big company, as well as building a company from scratch? What are some leadership lessons you learned?
I'll tell you, it's a very, very important question, especially coming into the US, getting my master's degree. I had the opportunity to work at some of the most iconic research labs and companies in America. It's completely fortuitous that after I graduated from Colorado State University, I started working at Bell Labs. I mean, that was like the premier research institution of the time. And Bell Labs was known for so many innovations, among them System 5 Unix, among them voicemail systems, and so on. So that was interesting that I got into that company. And the experience I got at Bell Labs, and then subsequently the knowledge I acquired of Unix, got me my job at DEC. So your question was, how did that play a role? Most entrepreneurs today that you hear of, they graduate from college and then maybe start a company. But having worked at DEC and Bell Labs, I first learned how to make solid products. But at DEC, I learned something even more important. I learned how to, number one, I learned how to manage, design, build, and grow multiple product cycles take them through the customer adoption cycle. That's one. Number two, I learned what are the different components of teams that go into building a product. As an engineer, you don't realize the importance of marketing. As an engineer, you don't realize the importance of product management. And you don't understand the importance of creating a business out of the product. So all of those things I learned, and little did I know that later on down the pike, they would play a fundamental role in how I would build my teams at the companies that I became part of, that I co-founded.
And I think, in your conversations, it's very apparent to me that even in a big company, you got to have an entrepreneurial mindset to be successful. You said this many times in the past. And even as an entrepreneur, you need to have the kind of the discipline of a big company. I mean, I think they both are equally important. Doesn't matter if it's a big company or a small company.
Working
sorry, go ahead, Vas.
No, working with some truly great minds helped a lot. At DEC, for example, I could see what the engineers were doing, what my manager was doing, what his manager was doing, and how we would go to market, how we competed with the other companies. In our case, it was Sun Microsystems. And we worked with the truly great competitors of our time, such as Vinod Khosla, who started Sun Microsystems. We were competing directly with Sun Microsystems there. We were competing with their Windows operating system that they wanted to sell. And we wrote this X window system that we open source, so that very quickly it was proliferated in the marketplace. And today our code is running on all Linux systems. The code that I wrote for color map management, for example, is still there in Linux systems. So that whole approach to go to market and understand customer adoption, all those things helped.
And I think, you bring out a very good point that sometimes we forget a lot of innovation is based on past innovation. We're always standing on the shoulders of giants, and also whatever you invented then is still useful in some as an ingredient in future things. It's sort of things move from generation to generation in a very interesting way. And
may I make an important? May I take one more point? So
sure.
What you mentioned is extremely important. You hear about success stories today of Airbnb or Uber or some of these companies, and you say, look, within 2 years, the founder was able to raise $50 million. But you don't realize that before he started Uber or before they started Airbnb, they had learned from mentors who had had many failures in the past. Correct. All those contribute to building a successful company.
Yeah. Okay. And that takes me to the next question of what has in your career failure taught you about success?
Well, to be honest,
you haven't had any failure, I know, but
to be honest, I had like so many failures that I'm too embarrassed to say. But I started my first company in 1992. Long before we started Selectica. We started this magazine that the idea was it was called Tiger India, to communicate Silicon Valley secrets to the communities in Mumbai and India, to other entrepreneurs. But I didn't have the pricing model. I didn't understand anything about building a business. But then I started a consulting company called Alma, and I had a good range of customers at the time: Sun Microsystems, Schwab, and so on. But it really, I needed a mentor who had done it before, and that was my colleague Raj Jaswa our colleague from IIT Bombay, and I merged my company with his company and then took it forward. So the institutional effect.
You learn to partner, you learn to know when to quit, you learn when to start afresh. And the other thing,
I'm truly embarrassed with those stories, but those were fundamental to my growth.
Well, I mean, and whatever is embarrassing is the ingredient of success. So, and I think it's important for young entrepreneurs to understand it's not success after success after success. You have to just keep getting up when there's a failure and not give in. I think that's the point.
It's failure after failure after failure after failure. And then, suddenly, if you're persistent enough, as some people have said, success is all about being there and showing up and, being there when the market arrives to meet your advanced ideas.
Right. The other thing is that you're an avid photographer, you're a bicyclist, and you used to play tennis before. I mean, whatever you take on, you really like to go deep into it, because I've known you as a photographer, and it's just not take your phone and take a picture. You have your, you study it, you studied lighting, you took classes, and you really go deeply into whatever you do. So tell me a little bit about that, as to what is really accomplishment at the end of the day, about what is important about going really deep into a subject. So tell me a little bit about that.
That is, when my great icons in life might not be the icons that you and I know about. Michael Lewis talks about 10,000 hours, which comes out to 7 years of minimum 7 years in a field. But if you think about some of the great icons, I'll use a sports icon and think about what Federer has accomplished in 20 plus years. It's not about just winning one match or one Grand Slam, but it's about keep on playing when the weather is not working for you, when your legs are weak, when when the wind is in your face, when the light is in your face. It's not about winning when you're feeling the strongest. It's about winning when you're feeling the weakest. When you're down. It's about playing in the northern hemisphere, about playing in the southern hemisphere. It's about practicing under the most extreme circumstances. All of these. So you have to look not just at a 360-degree view, but also 360-degree view in multiple seasons, multiple years, over multiple decades. That's what really builds your character. And so that's why, if you ask me, like, why am I still doing this? It's the joy of creating something new and learning to get good at it. And with the full understanding that just because you are successful 5 years ago or 10 years ago, you have to understand that when you start anew, it is, there is no guarantees of success. There's very high likelihood that you'll fail, and it'll be a zigzag road to success. Whatever success means. Whatever success means.
Success means, right? That's a whole new conversation.
Yeah.
And also now I want to talk about, and the other interesting thing about you is that you've been a venture capitalist also, and then said that I like being the entrepreneur. Sometimes I think it's good to know what you don't want to be also. But yet you quite, you're very active in new technologies. You're very active in nurturing people and even investing. For example, you're really into, the new technologies like Ethereum, blockchain, etc. Of course, they've reshaped finance in a huge way. So what is it that interests you about it? And in what way do you think it's going to change the way we live, learn, and earn?
I think you're asking me about this whole new world of crypto and how does it relate to ScoreData is doing. I have a group of people here that I work with on the weekends to understand how can ScoreData play a role. The four legs of the stool are the creator's economy, the store of value, AI and ML, and then let's say applications to new worlds. New worlds could be synthetic biology or security or those kinds of things. In terms of finance, it could be about payments. It could be about decentralized autonomous organizations. It could be, so those are some of the areas that it could work. In our office, we have just incorporated 3 years of, just to show how our ScoreData platform works. We have been able to ingest 3 years of data and figure out within 24 hours, college intern came in within 24 hours, was able to build a predictive model to predict the price of Bitcoin, 12 to 24 hours out over a few weeks. So those are some of the powerful applications that you can build with AI and ML. And that's the world we are getting ready for.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think it's important to know what you're saying, that it's not technology for technology's sake and what it can do for the last mile of financial data potentially. So I also wanted to ask you, you're doing ScoreData now, and as an entrepreneur, sometimes your company may IPO, sometimes you don't know where it's going, as you said, but you have to keep your spirit up, and you have to keep everybody's spirit up the same way, no matter what it might be, because you have no idea sitting at any given point of time what could happen. Of course, you have some idea, but I'm just saying you have to be prepared for everything. So tell me a little bit about how can these technologies we are talking about create a sense of purpose for the whole team as well, that whatever we do is moving us forward toward a new world.
So no matter what, you have to remember that the company that you're building is bigger than yourself, or bigger than anything, than any of the individuals who are working in the company, including yourself. That's rule number one. And once you have that internalized, then you have to continuously innovate on the product side. So that goes without saying. But it's not just randomly solving hard problems, but you want to solve a problem that makes a difference to the work that's being done by others. In our case, for example, we built over the last 6 years, we built this predictive analytics platform called ScoreFast. And then we realized that every AI model that is being built and run into production, that is going to fail in the coming weeks, months, and years, because the data that was used to build those models are going to drift. They're going to change. So the ground truth, if the truth as represented by historical data changes in real time, then the model needs to be retrained and rebuilt. So, for example, if you have a manufacturing turbine at Chevron, and the spec of the engine had a particular characteristic, and something happens in the field, and the data starts changing, the turbine might fail, and it could cause the whole plant to shut down. That's an example of how things can fail. Or, if weather patterns change and insurance companies are waiting for, they allocate so much money for claims losses, the weather patterns change, you're going to have not enough money to pay off those claims, and you declare a loss. So we can, with our predictive modeling and data drift monitoring, we can help solve these problems for our customers.
Yeah.
So that's,
and what's the group that you have? You have a little group with a great name about all the things that you're doing.
On the crypto side, we have an informal fun group. It's called Crypto Cats. One of our biggest objectives right now is to build a platform to create art, so that can be sold to generate money for all the NGOs in India that really need money. And so we are building this platform. This is just as a, the word is seva.
Right.
So we're trying to create this platform to help our countrymen be strong and help fight, fight the ravages of nature.
So Vas, we are at that part of the interview. It's called Stump Me If You Can. You can ask me any questions you want. So why don't you go ahead?
So Lakshmi, I was, I've known you for several years now. And I was so impressed that you took the leap to first attend TED and then start the very first TED India. And I was very happy to be part of that TED conference. And then you leapt to the next orbit and started Inc. Another very bold move. I loved the branding and loved the way you set it all up. What holds the future for Inc. and Inc. Talks?
Yeah. And I want to acknowledge, Vas, a lot of my beginning has happened with you and Vrinda in your house. We interviewed Deepthi Nawal, Shivamani, so many people we interviewed in your house. You were wonderful hosts, and that started Lakshmi's Lounge, that started TED India, and now we are at Inc. It's very interesting because I think 10 years ago, we wanted to start where TED India left off, and we started Inc. as a conference. We have over 500 talks and fellows. We've done a lot. And now when I look to the future, I think we need to move to the future. We sometimes need to stop existing as we were and take a new thing. And it has happened very gradually, Because where I see Inc. going, still with the storytelling, still with what we do, is there's a whole leadership training that needs to happen for all of us. We all need to train ourselves in a whole new way, because this is not the industrial revolution where you specialize in something and that's what you do. I mean, things are changing so fast that I think we have to learn a lot more soft skills, communication, storytelling, and empathy, and all the things people would call touchy-feely at some point are the real leadership skills now. So a lot of the future for us is to create great leaders. What can we do to fuel great leadership coming out of India? So that's really what we are looking at, still focusing on storytelling, still focusing on the soft skills, but how do we work with large corporations to entrepreneurs to young high schoolers to make them great leaders? So that's our journey now.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for inviting me. You know, I what I admire about you is how during this whole journey you raised such a beautiful boy, and you and Rajat. You know, it's a joy to meet Arnav and see his journey. What do you have in store for the next generation in terms of advising them about all these new experiences that you are seeing? You have a visionary kind of look into the future.
I think I have learned everything from just going with the flow. You know, actually, my 17-year-old Arnav has taught me a lot, because I think today we live in a world where there are so many more opportunities than we ever had. For me, my father told me, like, you either study mathematics or you study medicine. You have to be economically independent. And economic independence meant you had to do some professional degree. But today, that's not the case. You can pursue art, you can pursue music, you can pursue sport, you can pursue so many things and still, fulfill what you feel you're meant to do. So with Arnav, I mean, he taught me that, I would always say, okay, are you going to do computer science? Or, despite all my background, I just want him to have some proper degree, so to speak, right? And he just said, I want to play sports. I don't want to go to college to study. I want to pursue a sport. To me, sport is a university. And that took me a while to understand. And it's so scary for me because I don't know how to help, how to coach, how to, say, this is how you fill the application or whatever. I have no clue how to do it. So what we can do, I think, is we have to learn from our children and let them teach us and let them go, let them take the, take the kind of a leap of faith and not use your fears and your background and your history on what they can do. Maybe he can do sports management, he can go play, he can be a coach. I mean, there are so many things. So I think, I'm learning from him that to lead the future generation or to be relevant to the future generation, forget leading, to be relevant to the future generation, you have to listen to them. Yeah. So with that, Vas, I want to say that, we always want to continue the conversation. I've known you for over 20 years and hopefully for many, many more years. But when we interview somebody, we don't want to leave it there. And we want to say, what else can we do together after this? Whether it is maybe you can teach our youth a little bit about what you're working on, or I don't know, what can we do as an Ink Tree Seed idea together after this interview?
Well, one idea I had was that we have an intern program every summer. Maybe if you have Ink fellows who are interested,
I think that's a great idea. Maybe
they can join. We every summer we have 3-4 interns. Maybe one of your Ink fellows can become part of ScoreData and intern. Another idea that I had was, if there are any corporate social responsibility projects, then we can team up. Whatever is the need of the hour, maybe we can create a project around that. Those are some of the ideas I had.
I think that's,
yeah.
I think both are good. I think one is we can put it in our fellowship if, we'll come to you, get the job description, or, I mean, just basically what you're
every April or May, you can, you can do that. And then, and yeah, things like that. Then there's like timely projects that come up the way we can collaborate. And then, the other thing I tend to do also is that I teach classes at San Jose State University occasionally for my friend Professor Basu. I can, maybe do a lecture or something, some, teaching.
Okay.
So those are the three ideas.
Great. I mean, usually we look for one. So 3 great ideas. So let me summarize. One is for summer internships, we can spread the word. And secondly, if there is anything we can do as an art auction, maybe, or something.
Or a crisis, some crisis du jour. Yes. If there are ways we can put our heads together and then, if there's any like a research topic that contemporary research topic, you can suggest it or I can suggest it and things like that.
I think that's great. So these are really good. We'll follow up on this. These are really good offers. So thank you so much, Vas, for that. So I just want to wrap up by saying that, there is one thing that Vas talked about. I think we all need to think that's very important, is that entrepreneurship is a long-term game. As he was saying, like just like a tennis player has to practice no matter what, whether it's rain or sunshine or snow or whatever. In the same way, there are times in an entrepreneurship or even in a corporation, because it's the entrepreneurial spirit we need to have. Sometimes things go well, sometimes they don't, but no matter what, we have to keep the eyes on the goal and just keep going. And success is what we define it to be. So thank you so much for your time. And Vas, thank you for your time, and thank you to our listeners. Until next time, bye-bye.
Thank you very much for having me on your esteemed show.